I've seen it all, and I know it's a very tough trade to work in at times, but it's such an enjoyable trade. You meet so many people that just like-minded, awesome people. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back to Turf Today on the Superintendent Network, brought to you by Toro. This is the podcast where we dig deep into the world of turf, talk shop with the people who make it happen, and bring you stories that inspire, inform, and entertain. Today's episode is a special one. We're joined by Mick Sutton, all the way from New South Wales in Australia. A man who's truly seen it all in the turf industry, and Mick's journey is nothing short of incredible. So grab your coffee, or maybe your walkie, and settle in. You're going to want to hear this one. And make sure you stick around to the end of the interview to hear about our latest giveaway featuring the Andersons. Toro is proud to support the Folds of Honor again this year with the Parts for Opportunity Drive. Over the last 3 years, they've given $500,000 and more than 100 scholarships to families of fallen and disabled service members. This year's event runs from May 27th through June 3rd. It's a true win-win. You get genuine Toro parts, and Folds of Honor gets genuine support. Find a participating distributor near you at toro.com.
Oh.
So
man.
sorry, fellas.
There we go.
So sorry. Yeah, we were talking for a couple minutes there, and we realized we didn't hit the record button. We were having so much fun. So we're now live with Mr. Mick Sutton, coming in from Sydney, Australia. Long-time listener of the show and an amazing, amazing man. A lot of great things in his life, and his bio is very long. So we're really interested and looking forward to getting into everything with you today, Mick.
Yeah, no, thanks, Adam. I'll start again, will I?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, no, turning 50 this year, and I've had 30 plus years in the industry in both horticulture and greenkeeping. Mainly greenkeeping. Grew up in southwest Sydney, about now southwest of Sydney on rural property. Our farm was heavily involved in farming, so had a real drive and passion from a young age. Was used to getting up early on the farm, that type of thing. So currently live in the Southern Highlands, so about an hour 45 southwest, halfway between Sydney and Canberra is probably the best way to put it. Great part of the world. Been with me supportive and very understanding wife Helen for 18 years. Married for 16, and we have 6 children between us. We have the old yours, mine and ours. They range from 29 down to 14, and we've only got the 14-year-old at home now. So that's a bit of a change, but we also have 2 grandchildren. So that's been awesome too. 2 grandsons. It's really good. Love all sport, as you can see by me little background there. Love NBL. Love NFL, hockey, rugby league. You name it, I'll watch it. I'll put it on in the bar here, and we watch it. Basketball, a lot, you name it. So, love it. Wanted to be a professional rugby league player as a kid, and to my parents' credit, they were like, "Yeah, that's well and good, but you need a trade if you want to stop, going to school and do that. Get a trade." So, I started as a greenkeeper back in '92. It was about the same year I was playing for Canterbury Bankstown as in the lower grades of the rugby league competition over here in Australia. So it was a good start. It was a horticultural apprenticeship, and playing rugby league. I suppose I've heard it on other podcasts. Your sport and background sort of has related to why you've ended up in the industry, but mine was a number of things. That was probably one, playing on a lot of different turf varieties, your Courchaines and your Kaikuyus, some cool season as well. Sort of getting your head tackled into it at playing rugby league. You got to know it pretty close and personally. So it was something that I really wanted to do. Yeah, and that was from the apprenticeship at the Australian Botanical Gardens at Mount Annan, which is southwest Sydney near Campbelltown. It was when it was during being the building phase, so I got a real chance to spend some time with couch grass, as we call it in Australia, or Bermuda, as everyone else knows it in the rest part of the world, to take a Toro 1021 to the top of the hill and mow and stripe up this grassy knoll, and that's where I sort of went, yeah, this is me, making the patterns and changing the cut heights and playing around with the cylinder mower. It was, I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, that was
cylinder mower. We had that conversation with Trent. Came out today.
That's right.
Everyone else calls it the reel. It's the cylinder mower.
The real mower, yes. Yes, yeah, real mower, cylinder mower, both. Yeah, it is a bit technical, isn't it?
Love it.
The cylinder and the bottom blade, he was telling us.
Yes, yeah, right, yes. That's a bit about, where it started. My sporting, I played rugby league for too long. I started stupidly at the age of 3. Family was involved in the sport. I still remember the first game of rugby league I played. It was at Camden. The old ground used to be near the airfield. So the gliders come over, and as a 3-year-old, I got past the ball, caught the ball. And as a 3-year-old, I looked up at the glider and got whacked as hard as I can remember. I know I went off crying, but that was the start of a long footy career,
Did you ever have a chance to go pro or anything like that?
Nah, never quite got there. Just, life, injuries, that type of thing. But yeah, I played a bit of lower grade. Like, I had a highlight. As I said, I played for Canterbury for lower grades, and played the SG Ball Grand Final in '92, which when I was 17. It was on the 3rd of June, which is my birthday, and we got beat 20-0, which wasn't good. But we played before the 3rd State of Origin, and I don't know if you guys know what the State of Origin over there, but it's a pretty big thing here. It's the New South Wales versus Queensland. It's probably our Super Bowl of rugby league here. It's pretty intense, and I got handed my jersey by player Mal Meninga, who's now the Australian coach. So back then it was a pretty big highlight. He was a very prominent footballer. So yeah.
Any big injuries or anything?
Oh yeah, lots. You name it. I've had broken ankles, broken sternums, broken wrists. Yeah, a lot. Yeah,
that's got to be one of the toughest sports. Like, no pads or anything.
It's pretty full on.
Yeah. You got to be tough. You got to be tough playing that sport.
A lot of contact. A lot of contact.
So what about the game of golf? Did you get into the game of golf when you were younger?
Yeah. I still dabble. There's I wouldn't say I'm great. I'm probably the worst in my family, but the only greenkeeper in the family and the worst golfer. But that's fine. But
you don't get into this business to play golf. I don't know.
That's exactly right. So our family, once a year, we go away somewhere together. So it ends up being 25, 26 at the most of us, like it's my dad and my brother and my brother-in-laws and my nephews and a few mates. We go and play somewhere different every year. It's just something we've started, and I've actually inherited now organising it for the last few years, but it's been, but it's an awesome thing. We just get together and catch up, it's awesome. Yeah.
So Mick, tell us what you're up to now.
I'm now working for Toro. I've gone a real big full circle. So on the side, I never thought I would be. I'm the area sales manager for the ACT in southern New South Wales. So golf equipment. So just going to golf courses. So still involved and still get to see a lot of the green stuff, which is awesome and enjoy it. So yeah.
I was gonna say you get to see a lot more places than that way, right? You get to go travel around and see what's going on all throughout the region.
Yeah, cover a fair part, like a third of New South Wales, so and ACT as well. So it's a fairly big region, but it's a lot less than what I was doing previously. So yeah, that was a bit of the catalyst of changing my role into this sales role.
It is kind of common though. You see a lot of course managers or head greenkeepers or superintendents get into those sales roles because they have the relationships, they know the products well. It's
Yep,
kind of a, you can get your weekends back. You don't have to get up
it's a
early
bit
in
of
the
a synergy,
morning.
isn't it?
So yeah, it's kind of a common move for a lot of those people.
Yeah, yes, definitely. So yeah, I honestly never thought I would do it, but it was time. There was the opportunity come up, and I went for it, and here I am. So yeah.
Nice. So I want to go back to your man cave on steroids there behind you. Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite piece of memorabilia up there on your wall?
Oh, I have. I've actually got a few of my jerseys away getting framed now, playing jerseys. But you can see a jersey just above my shoulder there, right at the top. That was my wife and family gave me that for my 35th birthday. It's the St George Dragons from the NRL, and they won the comp that year. So I had my birthday in the June 2010, and we won the competition. It's the last time we won the competition for a while, so it's probably prized. Oh yeah, there's a photo there of my first sellout as a televised sellout at Campbelltown Stadium when I was a superintendent there, and just a couple of pictures of the stadium that hold a little bit of presence to me as well, like a story I had in an industry turf magazine. There's a bit of a canvas there, so yeah, there's still
Nice.
still a bit of work to go on the wall, but I'm getting things together. So it's been
Oh,
a
did I
long
did I
process
see?
here for 2 years.
Oh, I would imagine there's a lot of stuff
Yeah,
up on those walls.
yeah,
It's impressive.
yeah.
What do I see at Georgia? Is that Georgia flag
Yes,
behind you
yes, you
there?
do. Yeah, yes,
What's the
yes. I've
connection with Georgia?
been to Georgia a couple of times. So in my last role as turf quality inspector, so going around to farms around Australia and around the world too, really. But basically, my main role was here in Australia, looking after 60 farms, turf farms for PBR grass, so licensed grass for universities, that type of thing. Just going around and making sure that their morphology was correct and it was being true to type. And so for that job, I had to go and do some training, which one of the varieties was Tiff Tough turf from Dr. Brian Swartz over in Georgia there at the University of Georgia. And that sort of informed a bit of an infinity there with Georgia from that. Spent a lot of time touring the state of Georgia. It's beautiful. Love Georgia, actually. It's a beautiful part. I've been turf farm, turf farms all over the state, basically,
Yeah.
inspecting and just having a look and seeing sites. I've done a full tour of the UGA site there at Athens, Georgia. That blew my mind with Matt Halloran. They're just seeing what they do, the scale of things compared to here in Australia, like 100,000 seat university stadium. That's our biggest stadium here in Australia for professional sport. And their training facilities. So yeah, that's been why I've collected a bit of Georgia, and now I follow the Dogs as well because of it. I've been to a game or two, so it's been awesome.
Nice. So going around inspecting these sod farms and stuff like that, do you look at genetics? You mentioned making sure everything's kind of the way it is. I mean,
Yep.
you taking tissue tests and looking at genetics and all that fun
Um,
stuff.
you can go that far, but generally, it's more a site. You look at a site. You can if you look at something long enough, you can tell. You know that something's not right there. Most greenkeepers will tell that. You can see there's something different to the stolon length or the leaf length or the colour and that type of thing. So generally just a visual. Also making sure that it was free of other varieties. Like you're not you haven't got Tiff Tough and Tahoma together, or you know what I mean. But it is hard to tell. But once you're doing it all the time, you do notice the difference, definitely.
Well, I wanted to go back. Something that stood out to me there, Mick, was you talking about a sellout at a stadium. And we haven't talked to a lot
Yep.
of people that worked on sports fields and have managed grass like that. So tell us or talk to us a little bit about, managing a stadium, the turf, and a crew that would take care of something like that. And, tell us a little bit about the feeling of seeing your first sellout. That's got to be pretty cool too.
So, Adam, it's funny you say a crew. Um, Over here in
Was-
Australia, we're like the rest of the world. We do have a bit of a shortage of staff as well in the greenkeeping industry, but generally it was myself and maybe a greenkeeper or a grounds person helping. So basically, I looked after the main arena, an athletics stadium as well, the internal, the grass area and sort of, your berms and that type of thing. So there was I could probably go back to, there was a really big time there where I actually worked 72 hours straight. So we had
oh,
18, yeah, it was a big week. All I did was catch a bit of sleep here and there where I could in the stadium in my swag. But we had 18 games of NRL, New South Wales Rugby League grand finals over a weekend, which, you had to be there because of televised, that type of thing, in case something happened. So then we changed over into a Matildas game on the Sunday, not for the Monday. So we had to do a full washout. So that there we had, I think I ended up with 3 or 4 staff to help me with the changeover and the washout, that type of thing. We went into the Matildas game on that Monday night. Then we changed over again to a televised NRL schoolboys game on the Tuesday. So that's complete line washouts, logo washouts, you name it. Changing the posts over. It was a hell week, I can tell you.
What's
But
a logo washout entail? I mean, you literally just like power washing the logo off the grass, or how does that work?
no, you usually just you've got your fish mouth nozzle on the end of your hose off a QCV. With you tend to, when you do your lines over here, I don't know what it's like the rest of the world. It's pretty similar to some of the people I've spoken to, but we put a bit of mold extract in the line marking paint so that it's easier to wash out. We try and mark as close to the event as you possibly can to keep the colour. Rain's obviously, a bit of an issue in that respect, but yeah, you put a bit of malt in, extract in, and then it just makes it a lot easier for washout. So it's just walking over it, it's washing it back into the profile, basically. It's and when you've got rugby league and soccer, you've got a lot less lines for the soccer as opposed to the rugby league, and colours as well. You've got red and white, and then the logos for NRL are crazy. So yeah, it's sometimes can be a very long and tedious job.
Hey, this is Michael with Standard Golf Company. Standard Golf has been manufacturing top quality golf course tools, equipment, and accessories right here in Iowa for over a century. From hole cutters and bunker rakes to flags, tee markers, flag sticks, and our innovative green activator, we supply the world's top distributors, proudly made here in the USA. Trusted by golf course accessories all over the world, Standard Golf continues to be the superintendent's best friend by providing specs for the golf course that will turn an eye. Standard Golf, where innovation meets excellence. Now let's get you right back to Turf Today.
I was always curious about that. You always see, a lot of the stadiums that have that turnover, and just always been
Yes.
curious about how easily that stuff is to wash off. Obviously, power wash was the wrong term there. Obviously, probably some more damage there, but yeah, I was just always curious about it, if they like painted over it or something like that,
Yeah.
and redo it.
Yeah, so
Fascinating.
after like the rugby league games and soccer for that respect, probably a little bit more in soccer, you're spending quite a few hours just, going over and doing your divot repairs and, a bit of replacement, that type of thing, especially around your goal mouths and in the corners and that type of thing. It's there's a lot more to turf maintenance on the stadium side than the people think. Like as I said, I've been very lucky. I've worked on turf farms. I've worked golf. I've worked. So I've been across the whole, bit of the gambit of the whole industry. So I've seen it all, and I know it's a very tough trade to work in at times, but it's such an enjoyable trade. You meet so many people that just like-minded, awesome people. Yeah.
Do you find it is very similar going from sports fields to golf to sod farms? Like I know sometimes there's a little bit
Oh,
of a division, but do you find it very similar? A lot of
yeah.
same kind of people?
I I still I can go back to when I first started to do stadia or that sports fields side of things. It was funny story. I went on a holiday to see my father up in Brisbane, and I was sitting in the clubhouse, and we're having lunch, and Dad knew the CEO of the club really well, and Pat, his name was, and he come up and Pat said, so I'll talk. Dad and him were talking, and they said, "Oh, my greenkeeper's just quit," and Dad goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I know he's walked out on us. We haven't got a greenkeeper." And Dad goes, "Oh, he's a greenkeeper," pointing at me. So Pat said, "Do you want a job?" And I was like, my ex-wife was sitting next to me. I was like, "What do you think?" So we went away and talked about it. 2 weeks later, we were living back up there. So yeah, that's yeah, it was crazy. It's a crazy thing, and it was like a 38 hectare site. It had 3 rugby league fields, a grass hockey pitch, some netball pitches. So it was a steep learning curve to go from golf to stadia. There is a lot of intricacies difference. Like there's your height of cut obviously is a lot different. I still remember the first time I had a line mark. I was like, "What am I doing here?" Like, what's this thing? I'd never seen. All it was before at the golf course was a can of spray. So doing the GUR. So it was really, yeah, it was. The transition's there, but it's easy. No, I shouldn't say it's easy. It takes time, but I was lucky. I had a lot of mentors that I knew and could call on, because Australia here, we're such a close knit industry. Everyone knows everyone. It's yes, we're a big country, but the industry's pretty tight. So yeah, there's a lot of people you can call on to help.
Expand upon some of the relationship side of things over there. Is it very similar to what we have in the States as far as associations and networking? What's the culture like over there?
Yeah, well, we have our annual golf show, or ASTMA golf show now they call it, which is a bit more unified than it used to be. It's not just the golf course supers anymore.
Nice.
I've been a board member of the New South Wales Sports Turf Association for coming on 6 years now. So I've seen it change a lot. A lot of our industry I shouldn't say a lot, some of our industry bodies have combined to be a Sports Turf Managers Association as opposed to a Sports Turf Association or a Golf Course Supers Association as well, which I think's good, because here in Australia, we have such a short winter or period, especially here in Sydney and New South Wales, where they're trying to cram a lot of events in, and there's a lot of overlap on events. So I think we need to look at ways like other states have done, where we can combine our associations, so we're not doubling up on a lot of things. Like, realistically, we're all greenkeepers. Yes, we're specialised in certain areas, but we all went to turf school, we all college, or or uni or whatever, but we all are doing the same thing to a degree. Still, there's differences, but when we get together, it's like you guys. I still haven't been over to one of the big shows yet. It's on my bucket list to do, and I want to really experience that. It'd be awesome to do. So, but it's very similar, yeah.
What about some of your mentors? Who are some of the people that you learn from and still communicate with?
Johnny Simpson was my first super. Well-respected bloke in Sydney. Johnny, when we were at Camden Valley Golf Resort, or the old Rugby League Country Club, as some people know it, southwest Sydney as well, 27-hole course. That's not there anymore. It's all houses, which is a shame to see, which is happening a lot around Sydney. I shouldn't say a lot, but a bit. And it's, sad to see, especially when I put so many hours in there. I spent so many years. We had a really good, tight-knit team there with, there was 12 of us all together at most. Sometimes it went a little bit more, but it was mainly around the 12. We all probably majority of us, I think 6 to 7 of us played rugby league. We either played with each other or against each other, on opposing sides. So it was always a fun Sunday, or Monday morning after a win or a loss against the other team, or who was going to get to the greens mower first because they were the most injured, that type of thing. It was quite funny there working there. Johnny was someone I don't see much anymore. I see his son because his son's still a greenkeeper. He's at Campbelltown Golf Club now, Dave. But yeah, Johnny was very old school. Taught me that your soil health's one of your most important things in your greenkeeping, and he was instrumental in developing from the the curiosity of grass to how we make it grow. He really helped me there. Yeah, so he's one. I've forged, as I said, with being very lucky and privileged to do what I've done and where I've been. But like Dr. Brian Swartz from UGA, Dr. Mick Sutton, who's a soil scientist here in Australia. I worked with him for a few years in a Love Your Garden program through Sydney Water, and he was saying, I learnt even more from him on soil biology, that type of thing. Where it was a bit of a program where here in Sydney we were going through a drought, and he developed a program to help homeowners with their lawns and their gardens and how to effectively water and improve soils and that type of thing. So that was really good, and I still see Mick quite regularly at functions and that type of thing as well. So God, where do I go? Yeah,
I was going to say the list goes on and on, I'm sure.
Yeah, another one by another legend, and I only seen him the other day at the golf. We had a New South Wales golf course Supers a golf day. Gary Behag, been around the industry forever. He was the one that actually got me across to turf farms first when I in between my stints at Campbelltown. So yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, there's too many to sort of mention, really.
What are some of the lessons, whether it's, you mentioned kind of some of the soil stuff that you maybe picked up, but what are some of the key lessons that have really influenced the person that you are now?
You've really got to learn to maintain that subsoil to its optimum, like don't damage it, but learn, you need to learn the balances of, how much to put in and how much not to put in. You know what I mean? There's a fine line there. Some people will overstimulate, and some will understimulate. And I've been a victim of doing that as well. Especially when I went from, just a general park sort of footy to a sand profile. There's so many, and perched water tables. There's so many different things to think of, and like a perched water table or a sand profile is so much different to a clay-based park foot, ground, that type of thing. So you've really got to know what you're dealing with, and know the best way to manage it, I suppose, is probably the biggest learnings I've got from that.
So Mick, we got some funny stories here from you that we definitely want to get into. Before we get into a few of these, though, there's something kind of serious I wanted to talk to you a little bit about. When we first met a couple of years ago or started chatting online, one of the things you talked to me about was an accident you kind of went through and a recovery that you didn't think was possible. So I would love for you to kind of dig into that story for us.
Yeah, well, back in 2006, it was just after I moved back from Brisbane. I was working out at Windsor Way, and I had a motor vehicle accident. I was on my way to work, and the person was on the wrong side of the road. I swerved to miss him. I hit an embankment about 2 meters tall, but it threw me about 20 meters into the scrub. Car caught a light. The airbag had me pinned against the back of the seat. There was, as I said, there was flames. It was a light because it had dropped oil on the exhaust. I thought in my head, I need to get out and turn this car off. And as I got out, I hit the deck. My legs gave way. I had to drag 20 meters, and it was. It's not funny, but it is funny. my uncle was borrowed my uncle's car. It was my uncle's car. And he did say to me the night before, he goes, "Oh, if you're going to crash it, can you write it off for me?" That was, there's a funny thing to come out of that, but it was funny. It was lucky that it was his car, I suppose, in a way, because I had my phone in my pocket with an earpiece in, and I rang my ex-wife and I said, "I'm such and such. You need to call an ambulance and fire engine. The car's alight." Anyway, probably, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. It didn't, adrenaline, you don't really realize what had going on. I'd 10 to 20 minutes had gone past, the ambulance turned up, I got in, they wasted 2 extinguishers on the car, and they said, "We got to get out of here," and I could hear the fire truck turning up. The car blew up. Turned out I ended up having 2 fractured vertebrae. I had a fracture to my L2, which was straight up and down the vertebra, and then I had an L4, which was across at an angle. So in Boston brace, traction for nearly 9 months. It was told it was possibly that I'd never run again, I'd never exercise, I'd never work in the greenkeeping industry again. And me being me, I was like, no, that's not going to happen. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get there. But the L2 didn't heal, so I had to have a surgery. So to this day, I've still got 2 titanium rods and 12 titanium screws in my back with an L1 to L3 spinal fusion to stabilize the L2. But yeah, it wasn't gonna stop me. I wanted to be back in the industry I love, and it took a while, but I got there, and that was when I met Dr. Mick Sutton, and that's how I got back in. I went through that process of doing that Love Your Lawn, my background in a bit of turf and the horticulture sort of helped me there, so it was really good.
How did the community down there support you, rally around you when something like that happened?
Oh, I'm lucky. I've got a really, really good family. My family was really supported us really well. Local sporting community, the rugby league community really, really embraced it as well, which was awesome. Yeah, it was, it was a long road. It caused a marriage breakup as well, but that's life. You've got to move on, and I wouldn't be where I am now today, and I wouldn't have done the things I've done since. If it didn't happen in my life. Everything happens for a reason, I believe. That's my belief, and you just got to make the best of what happens and try and remain positive. Sometimes there was a lot of dark times, I can tell you, but you get there. Yeah.
And it's beautiful to see you kind of come out the other side and you want to get back into the industry, right? You want to be back working on the turf and working with those people. So tell us a little bit about, just getting back into that and slowly working back through those kind of joyous days.
Yeah, so that's, as I said, that's where I did that Love Your Lawn, Love Your Garden program, and then the opportunity came knocking at Campbelltown. It was a contract-based thing for Campbelltown Council, had a contractor in, and I just applied for the job, and yeah, here I was managing an NRL and A-League soccer field, televised games. As I said, another new experience. I had the perch water table there. I'd never done a sand profile, so it was a challenge. I went, yeah, I'm going to grab this by the horns and see what I can do, and that was where I had, we had things like NRL games as the first sellout for me as a televised game. It's only a small boutique stadium, 20,000, but to me that was a big deal. Coming from just a park footy, it was really good. It was things like we've had Crusty Demons in there. Where we got the whole surface, covered with soil, and they'd done motocross in there. Dirt, like just managing that side of things was really, really good. It was challenging, I can tell you. After the injury I had and time out of the industry, it was a lot of relearning. Myself I did just a refresher online after doing my trade I got my greenkeeping trade certificate back in 2001. So it was a bit of a relearn, but yeah, it was awesome. It was a real passion, and I really loved it. But it ended, contracts end. So that was when Gary Behag reached out to me and said, "Oh, we're growing a profile for new Meg Air Strathair profile for the showground at Stadium Australia at the Homebush Stadium. Would you come and do it for us?" Which I spent 9 months there doing it, the growing process, but it was great, like working. I had my own little patch, and I also had like the nurseries for the Sydney Football Stadium and Stadium Australia as well to manage. So that was my little niche area. That was where I went there, and then that ended. So I went off to manage a school just down 30 minutes down the road from where I am now. It was a all-boys sporting school, which had cricket fields and pitches and another new experience that I'd never really worked on before. So it was a good challenge. A lot of open paddocks, cattle, that type of thing. So yeah, very, very diverse. And then I ended up, it went to contract. I ended up having my own business. And I did that for quite a few years. That was nearly 6 years I did that. And then, funnily enough, the same company that I used to work for won the contract back at Campbelltown. So I ended up getting a phone call, and they said, "Oh, would you come and do the stadium for us again? And if we win it?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So that was another few years. So yeah, that was where I ended up. And then I ended up, I got a phone call. I don't know, tell it wasn't a phone call. We went through a renovation. So it had, Campbelltown Stadium at that time had Grand Prix when I took it back over, Grand Prix Bermuda. And they were looking at a reno, so we did a complete reshape. So we got in and reshaped the whole complex. New irrigation, the lot. Put an envelope profile in. We decided to change and go back to Legend Cooch, which was a pretty popular variety over here in Australia. Anyway, the Legend, we went out and picked it from a turf farm and pegged it out, paid our deposit. We're going through all the renovation, and we got a renovation. We had a very tight schedule because we had a A-League game. So we were due to finish, this was the October, and we're due to finish at the end of October and then have the 2-month grow-in for an A-League game in the January, just after Christmas. Anyway, we go through and we're reshaping. I've been out there quite a few times to the turf farm and helped them with spraying and fertilizer, nutrition, that type of thing. Anyway, we get to the week out, and I ring the turf farm and I say, We've got about 2 days doing the final. So I'm on the tractor now as I speak, doing the final trim, and they said to me, "Your turf's gone." I was like, "What?" And they said, "Yeah, it's been hit by cooch mite. You're not going to get it until the end of December." And I'm like, "What? How does that happen?" And so jumped on a plane and flew out to the turf farm. When I flew over the turf farm, the 11,000 square meters that I had pegged out was being cut out, was gone. So I've turned up. My boss is there, and he says, he picks me up from the airport, and he goes, "What do you think? What are we going to do?" And I said, "Jeff, it's gone." And he's like, "What do you mean it's gone?" I said, "I flew over. The airport flies directly over the farm." He goes, "I know." I said, "Mate, it's gone. It plus more, So anyway, we went through that drama, and I'm sitting at Dubbo Airport waiting to come home and ringing everybody I know in the industry. I'm ringing Graham Logan, who managed the Stadium Australia. I'm ringing all these stadium curators I know, and then, most people had sold there. It's that time of year. People are doing renovations. They're changing their stadium sod, and turf. Anyway, I ring my sales rep rings me. He goes, do I need to send any product out to the farm to get it treated? And I said, mate, it's not there. And he goes, no way. You're telling me a lie. I said, no, I'm not. Anyway, he said, oh, I'll give you this number. So I rang this number, and it was someone that had been in the industry for a long time, which I knew, Simon Adaman, and he said, leave it with me. So that Friday, they turned up with a roll. Him and a grower turned up with a roll of turf, and we put Tiff Tough turf in. So the first sort of stadium in New South Wales to have Tiff Tough on it. So it was a big thing. We got Campbelltown involved, all the council involved, and all that sort of thing. Anyway, it ended up, we did it. We had no other choice to do it. We had no supply. So it went really well. It performed really well. It was unreal, and so Lawn Solutions, who they have the license for it here in Australia, had an event on at the stadium, and I got to be a speaker and be involved, and I got to meet Dr. Brian Swartz from that as well. Then he ended up saying, you're doing a good job with this. And it was fun. It was a good event, and I come home to my wife, Helen, and I said, well, that was a really enjoyable thing. I could see myself, working for that company one day. Well, it didn't really well. I worked for a company called OzGap, which was a certification, because I got a phone call to say, can you come and do our certification program? So that's how I ended up doing that, the turf certification. So yeah, it was, I know it was a long story, but there was a lot to it to where I ended up, and that ended up being a really big eye-opener. That's where I got to go to Georgia. I got to go to Asia. I went to Vietnam. I've been to Thailand. I've been to China twice, 2 different years. I've been to, and from that I've been to see, Allegiant Stadium. I've been to, as I said, UGA. I've been to the Shanghai Pudong Stadium in Shanghai, obviously. University of Florida Swamp, that was an experience, and seeing their turf research facility, that was unbelievable. Meeting up with the guys there was just unreal. Dr. Ken Kenworthy, and there's just so many people that I've made and built relationships from that job around the world. Some of the guys over at Asia, I went to this farm in just south of Hoi An in Vietnam. It's some of the purest and best tiff eagle I've seen in the world, and Paspalum over there is unreal, and zoysia grass. Like, I got to go to Hoi An Shores golf course, and this experience that I would never have done without being involved in the turf certification. Just unreal. Yeah, there's so many highlights and so many people I need to thank, for where I am and what I'm doing in the industry. Yeah.
So getting to travel the world and see a bunch of these different places and varieties and ways that it's managed. What are some of the similarities or differences that you've seen throughout all these different locations around the globe?
As a whole, I don't think there's a lot of difference, along the way the things are managed. I would say Asia is a lot more primitive than what we are. Like, there's still labor's a lot cheaper. Say in America too. It used to be. I don't know what it's like there for you guys now with what's going on over there, but with all the labor,
it's getting better, slowly but surely.
It's getting better. Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah. So a lot more manual in Asia, but that turf farm I was talking to that I went to in Hoi An, their quarantine and down near Guangzhou in China, their quarantine of different turf varieties was unreal. Like, they have netting between the different varieties, and they have actual sanitation footpaths you've got to walk through between, so we're not getting cross contamination of seed and weed and that into the turf fields. Like, to me, that was far superior than some of the turf farms that I went and seen in America and here in Australia. Yeah, volume's a lot different. I mean, I still remember the first turf farm I went to at NG Turf in America, in Georgia. It was 125 acre pivot of Bermuda grass. You know, like to us here in Australia and in Asia, that's crazy. You know, we don't even, some farms aren't even that big. Turf farms aren't even that big. So yeah, very crazy.
Mick, this is a golf podcast. We'd love to hear about some of your memories from when you were at Camden Valley. It sounds like you guys all sort of played rugby against each other and worked together,
Yes.
so that must have been wild.
Oh mate, yeah, there was some crazy times there. When we used to get together and do bunkers. Bunkers was the fun thing, you know. We'd get together and do bunkers, and we had this one of our greenkeepers, Vaughan. He was just the practical joker on the crew. We'd get together and we'd sit there, and the members would come up to the hole, and we'd sort of take our step back, and Vaughan would bet everyone a Jim Beam can. It was always Jim Beam cans. I bet you Jimmy can that he doesn't hit the green, or he doesn't putt. He doesn't make this putt. He'll miss this putt. Anyway, we had young Blake, an apprentice. He would have been maybe only a year into his apprenticeship. He used to suck. Vaughan used to suck Blake in all the time. Blake would go, "Yeah, I'm in." We'd all just sit back and laugh. You know, like it was funny to watch. There was one stage where I believe they had it up to about 67 cans or something like that. It was some crazy amount of Jim Beam cans. So yeah, it was crazy about it. Anyway, Vaughan was a big double or nothing. All right. So Blake goes, yep, I'm in, double or nothing. Anyway, well, it was double or nothing, wasn't it? So it got to over 100. Anyway, they got back to, he goes, well, what about if we change it to 50 and 2 Jimmy cans? And then Blake ended up settling on $50 and 2 Jimmy cans because he was in a world of hurt otherwise. As a first-year apprentice, there's no way he would have been able to afford that.
Yeah, he's deep in the hole by the end of the season. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, that same Blake, Vaughan, God. I remember him coming in, hobbling in. I don't even know how he got in, but somehow he got Johnny to put him on a... Back then, you know, there was none of the mowers we have these days for fairways. It was an old Kubota tractor with a trail gang behind it. You know, that's what we had. Anyway, he managed to hobble his way onto this Kubota tractor. I'd seen him come into the crib room early, you know, like we got there about the same time and said, how'd you go? His nickname was Arbuckle. I said, how'd you go on the weekend? Because, you know, we do the morning chat, you know, of how we went on the weekend, and because he always played against us. Anyway, he goes, oh, not real good. So he's hobbled his way onto this Kubota tractor. Anyway, he comes in at morning tea and he goes, oh, Johnny, I've just fallen off the tractor. I tripped off as I got off. Look at me ankle. And like it was big, like it was big and black, and we're all like, are you kidding? Come on, Arbuckle. Anyway, I ended up having 2 weeks off. Like it was crazy.
Yeah,
you know?
oh boy, played it right. Not hurt until you're
Yes,
at work.
he did. Yeah,
Oh,
so
God.
yeah.
Imagine the frustration of having a golf event planned for months, having it disrupted by unpredictable weather. It's a constant battle against time and nature. We can feel helpless and our members understandably disappointed. We were introduced to Flash Weather AI and everything changed. With Flash, we're not just guessing anymore. We have the most accurate, real-time weather and lightning data at our fingertips. It's like having a personal weather expert always with us. Flash Weather AI is what our staff and members trust. It allows us to pull our members and our guests off the golf course in the safest, most efficient way possible. With Flash, at Columbus Country Club, we're always one step ahead of the weather.
I'm curious, just from your perspective, over in Australia, what are some of the new trends that you guys are excited about over there? You seeing anything, any latest and greatest, anything different than we're kind of getting over here in the States?
It's pretty simple. We follow you guys, you know, what you guys see there in San Diego will be, you know, for us coming up in our golf show in June. So, you know, the trends are very similar. As I said, it's similar here. Finding qualified people is becoming harder and harder, and retaining people in the industry. But we've got to work together to try and find a way. But yeah, there's not a lot of dissimilarities. It's very, very similar. Yeah.
You guys have any regulation issues or anything like that? I mean, is electric starting to
Yeah.
become more prominent, or?
Yeah, there is some restrictions coming in with chemicals, that type of thing. They're getting a bit more harder on the where they fall in the categories. That type of thing is starting to become a bit more of a thing. So there's a lot of chemistries being changed, but I mean that's becoming a global thing too. I believe like the Syngentas and that type of thing, changing up the chemistries. Yeah, autonomous is starting to show its head. There's a lot of the different mowers. But we just got to keep going and try and find the best way forward, don't we, to make it easier for us all. Yeah.
And you're currently working for Toro, and just a happy accident that, we're a Toro show. So talk to us a little bit about working for the company.
Oh yeah, so far, like I just, my opinion is, my opinion. I always use Toro as a super, or on the golf course we had Toro. As a stadium curator, I had Toro. It's always been, in my opinion, it's always been something that's at the forefront of the industry. Developing new technologies and the way the machines work, the way you can service machines. It's always been probably they've been the leader in that. I've always thought, and I believe that we're leading the way again. We're starting to show what the machines are capable of. Yeah.
I wanted to go back to the accident.
Yep.
And you're in a hospital, you're recovering for a while, basically fighting for your life for a little while. What does that do to your perspective? How much easier does work become when you had that struggle?
Yeah, you do a lot of soul searching. As I said, there was a lot of dark times there. I'll be first to admit that. There was a lot of times where I just thought I'd give up. But yeah, to perspective, it sort of made you dig deep, and have it reflected. As I said, because I had the marriage breakdown as well, as probably a big part of it, and it made me appreciate what I had lost, what I thought I had lost, which drove me to get myself right, to become, back into that role, become where I am now. It just sort of, yeah, you do a lot of soul searching as well. As I said, I spent a lot of time lying around in bed doing nothing. I still remember my son Bryce, as like he was born in the November and I did in the January. I remember in late January, early February, feeding him, and what can I do? I can't. Just give him here and I can feed. Just give me something to do. I just wanted something to do, So yeah, that was very hard, going from playing sport to nothing, and yeah, it made me learn a lot about myself and what I can handle, what I need to do, that type of thing. Yeah.
Well, Mick, we can't thank you enough for coming on today and telling us your story. We could do 10 hours of, all of the information that you sent us.
I know there's a bit there, isn't there?
There's a bit,
sorry,
yeah. We bounced around a bit, but you have had such a great career, and you're still young. You keep saying you're 50. You still got lots of great years ahead of you. So,
yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of great things to come, and this bio will continue to keep adding to the bottom of it. So, just to end off here, was there anything else you wanted to talk about, or any stories you wanted to tell?
No, I think I covered it off there, about industries. I think it's globally, we just all need to work together and come together, and we're all one. I've just been very lucky throughout my life and want to continue. And as I said, I hope to get over there soon and come to a golf show and catch up with you guys while I'm there. That'd be good.
Absolutely.
So, fantastic.
Yeah.
You mentioned that, coming together, working together. And I think that's the beauty of where we are this day and age, and digital technology, and how easy it is to share ideas. There are not as many obstacles I think, getting in the way of stopping, all different sectors of the industry from sharing information. So it's,
I think I find that is 100% right. Like, I come from the era pre-internet, so
I
you've
remember
seen
those days too. I remember
that's
printing out
right.
MapQuest for the first time. Like, this is amazing.
Right. You used to actually call people on the phone and say, "How do I get here?" That type of thing. You didn't go Google Maps and here I am. So
Yeah.
it's there's been a lot of change in the years. Like, as I said, going from those trail gangs to where we are now, looking at the autonomous. It's been a great ride, and it's going to continue, as you said, Adam. And it's awesome, and I'm glad you guys are doing what you do. As I said, it's so easy to find education now and learning, and we just got to work together, as I said, and try and get people, the younger generation, because it's so easy to do IT instead of manual labour, but we need to get that people back involved. Keep the skilled up.
Absolutely.
I feel like our industry is getting towards IT anymore. It's
insane. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yes. Yeah. Well, look at all the programs and that you got now, as we never had when I first started. I remember when I got a TDR meter in the last job, I was at the stadium and doing turf inspections. I was like, we never had that. It was all by eye. So it's unreal.
You can control a facility by your phone these days anymore. So
that's exactly right. Yeah.
Start the motors, start the irrigation.
That's
check
right.
your soil sensors.
That's right. It's all linked. Everything's linked these days. Yeah, that's right. It's all linked. It's crazy. I still remember when I first got at the stadium. I first got the phone linked irrigation. When I put the new irrigation in, I was like, wow, yeah.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. Well, this has been awesome. Such a pleasure meeting you here, Mick. And let us know when you make it over for the show. We'd love to connect.
Definitely. Yeah, no, it'd be awesome.
Awesome, Mick. Well, hopefully later in the day when you're having beers with the boys at the bar, send us a picture, because that looks like a nice little watering hole.
I will.
Yeah, no kidding.
I will. I'll actually send you some pictures. I'm having my 50th here at the end of the month. So
fantastic.
Yeah, I'll send you some pictures when the bar's chockers.
That'd be great. I got to ask you one more thing. I've been staring at this the whole interview. Is that a Simpsons couch gag on the wall?
Yes, it is.
Attaboy. That's unreal. That's unreal.
Yeah. My youngest daughter got it for me for Christmas. So it's got my current, I've got a French Mastiff dog called Dennis. He's a bit of a menace, so it fits. And it's got my Rottweiler, who you can probably see there's an urn just there. So she died a couple of years back. So she's on there too with me, and my two dogs on the couch. So.
That's cool. I love that.
Yes.
Awesome. Good stuff, Mick. Well, thanks again. Appreciate you joining us. We'll chat. Look forward to chatting soon.
Yeah. All right, guys. Talk soon.
Okay.
Right,
take care, Mick.
Bye.
And now it's time for another installment of Ask the Agronomist, presented by the Andersons.
It's giveaway time. The Andersons are hooking up 3 lucky listeners with an exclusive prize pack, and entering is super easy. All you have to do is send in a question for Ben. That's it. Got something you've always wanted to ask, and well, now's your chance. To enter the giveaway, slide into our DMs on Instagram with the question, or email your question to adam@superintendentnetwork.com. We are going to pick 3 lucky winners at random from all the questions submitted, and if your question makes the cut, well, you could be walking away with a sweet Andersons prize pack. Don't wait, get those questions in, and if you want to remain anonymous on the show, that's cool. Just let us know. Best of luck to everybody. I had to keep hitting the mute button there because there's a little war going on upstairs, so I'm going to go ahead and go help with bedtime. Bedtime in our house is just wild. Yeah, you're like, hey, we're going to do it in 45 minutes tonight, maybe an hour, and then it's like 2 hours later. We're just like, fuck, like...
I remember those days.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 books. 2 books. He'll be like, Dad, 3 books. Okay, so 2 books. 3 books? Okay, 3 books. 4 books? Fuck, dude.
See, you're the opposite of me. When I put my kids to bed, if they'd ask for 3 books or something, I'm like, okay, so we went from 2 to 1 now. You're gonna keep getting greedy.
We're gonna go the other way. Once he gets older, we're definitely gonna start pushing that way, because
Oh my gosh. I've got some great videos of like the kids climbing up over their, little baby gates that we put in front of the room so they couldn't creep out. My one, Ethan, my youngest, used to bring his little diaper genie over, where you put all the empty diapers in. He'd roll that over, he'd hop up on top of that, and then climb over the baby gate to come out. Like he was a little escape artist. Yeah. It was the best.
Oh my God,
that's so funny. I miss those days.
Yeah. So are you wearing the new Toro swag? Did it just come in?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the swag was. I wasn't expecting it. I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't expecting anything, and all of a sudden I got this box of goodies. These hoodies are legit.
That looks nice. Yeah.
I think it's a Swannies.
Ooh.
And it looks like the head covers are starting to be delivered. I've seen a couple of people post about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
nice.
I just saw one earlier today, so hopefully the rest of them are getting out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get up there. It's getting out.
Yep.
So
yeah,
good job
sounds
today.
Good. You too. See ya.
Thank you so much to Mick Sutton for making time for us today. It was awesome to get that one nailed down. Brian on the West Coast, me on the East Coast, and Mick over in Australia. It was a great time chatting with him, and we look forward to our next interview next week. Shout out to our sponsors for all the support that they give us. It drives the show every week. You will hear from us soon. Keep those reels sharp. Everybody have a good week.